So our topic today, networking. Networking not just for your career, oh, that's obviously a key part of it, but networking for your life. Networking really as a way to facilitate many different things in the course of your life. In the formal announcement that went out, one of the things I mentioned is that we've all heard the phrase, "It's not what you know, it's who you know," or more correctly, it's whom you know. Some people will say, it just doesn't matter what your expertise is, it's who you know. That's how you get ahead. Well, for those of us who've been in the field for a while, it's both of those things. But there is no question that it's important whom you know, it's important whom they know, it's important the stories those people tell about you behind your back. It's important how you get along with people, how you treat people. That's all part of networking. How you treat people, how they treat you, how you uh, how you work with and how you utilize your network as you go through the process of life, of living, of your career, of looking for a job, for instance. Uh, and I think one of the phrases I use is that networking is helpful from finding a job to advancing your career to finding your next electrician to do some work around your house or your company. So it's a very important thing and a very useful thing to be able to do. And like a lot of things in life, there's right and wrong ways to be doing things. Uh, there's things that if you do when you're networking, things might suddenly resonate. Certain things you might do something that causes a relationship to click. It might cause you and somebody else to really hit it off well, which can help both of you currently and down the road. Or you might commit a what I refer to as a networking faux pas. And there's many opportunities to do those things, and I'm sure many of us have seen, maybe even participated in such networking faux pas. Uh, I have a couple of stories on both sides, really successful things and fascinating faux pas. I may share some of those when we get further into the meeting, but uh, it's like a lot of like again, just like a lot of things. There's right and wrong ways to do it, and there can be, if you do it right, if you focus your attention on how to do it and on the people in your network, on your friends, it can really lead to a more successful, as the sign here says, a more successful future. So, who is Marty Latman, who's going to be presenting to us? Marty is a longtime Fang member. He is the chair of the Bergen County, New Jersey Fang chapter, longtime chair. He is also, within the last few years, a co-chair of the worldwide Fang group, based in the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area. Uh, and Marty is also, I believe, the chair of the New Jersey uh, uh, Strategic Networking Group, and he might talk about that a little bit. Uh, he's the manager of Latman Advisory Services. He's had a very long career, over 40 years, as a few of us here have had, over 40 years of work in the financial area. Starting out, he's a CPA with his bachelor's degree in finance from State University of New York in Albany. He is started out as an auditor with Pete Marwick KPMG. Uh, Kind of moved up through the ranks, became an auditor with a large oil company, worked his way into finance director, worked his way into controller, worked up into CFO positions, and for many years now has held a variety of CFO and or chief operating officer positions in a variety of companies and a variety of industries. So some very wide experience. Marty has gained a lot of knowledge during that time and used a lot of knowledge for the networking process to help himself. And he is also an expert at communicating some of those skills, some of those techniques, some of what makes networking such a useful tool. So I'm trying to think if I've left anything critical out here. Let me think. Oh, Marty is, I should mention, he's also a CPA and a CISA certified information security auditor, information systems auditor. And on that note, Marty, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Dan, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Good morning, everybody. It's really a pleasure to be out here. One of the companies I used to work with had operations on the West Coast in California. I had down in Tustin. I also had San Diego, Santa Barbara, Los Angeles, Newport Beach, San Francisco, San Jose. So I'm familiar with, the San Diego and the California area. It's really a pleasure to be out speaking with you. I'm really, when, Dan gave you, overall background of what I have. I'm known as really a three-legged stool, in that my background's in finance, operation, IT. I cover all three areas. And as Dan says, I've had a career where I've been in Fortune 50 companies. I've also been in small, medium-sized operation. When I look at it, all told, it's like 21 different industries I've been in. I've met some really important and high-powered individuals along that line. Some of the people I work with occupied the White House. Other people sign your dollar bills, if you look at it. And I've had a pretty good career in meeting different people. And in doing that, I've noticed how important networking was. And as a result of it, along the way, I've learned quite a bit of different skills that you have to basically implement and utilize in meeting people and advancing your career. And I think it's, useful in life. So that's what's, generated what we're going to talk about today. As we go through it, if you have any questions, just shout it out. Anyone who wants copies of the slides, more than happy to supply it. Just send me an email. I put in the chat my contact information. You could always look me up at the FENG. I do run the Bergen chapter, where we are approaching our 600th meeting since I started the chapter in 2002. Okay. We have new people. This is what I'm going to talk about today. It's real simple. I'm going to talk about my philosophies. What is networking? We throw the word around many times, but really, what is it? Let's talk about that for a second. Talk about how we build relationships. Who are our relationships? Let's take a look at people who we say we talk to and we interact with. We'll talk about the types of networks you build. How do we build it? Those networks. Where can we develop new relationships? How should we approach people? And the famous elevator pitch, which you all gave, in your introductions. And I'll talk a bit about that. We'll talk about how you maintain relationships, which is critical in this whole networking process. We'll talk about how your relationships can help you. And, what type of introductions relationships can provide to you. And then we'll just wrap it up. Okay. One thing I'll tell you to start with, when it comes to networking, there's no rules. No rules. If you're looking for the rule book on networking, you're not going to find it. It doesn't exist. So what you have to think about when you go through this is look at the different circumstances, what's going on, your surroundings, and it comes up to these. In today's environment, and this is how it's been for many years now, being in transition is really a permanent job. It's landing that's temporary. The average life expectancy of a CFO today in a major organization is 18 to 22 months. Okay. In small organizations, generally longer. But whatever it is, generally in a person's career, they generally move to 7 different employers during their career. So when you really look at it, we are consultants, and we've been consultants all our career. Relationships, in my opinion, are needed to advance your career. Okay, I could tell you, especially when it comes to some of the people that I've worked with that ended up in some really fantastic positions. They weren't the smartest people. They weren't the most intelligent people. What they were extremely good networkers. Okay. And that's really how they built their career. Okay. And these are the keys to success. It's what I call ABC. To always be connected to people in your network today and continue to reach out and connecting to new people all the time. You know, we could talk about LinkedIn, which is probably the biggest professional database for relationships that you have. A lot of people have numerous people on LinkedIn. And then I asked the question, okay, how many do you have? And how many people do you speak with on a regular basis? And the number is quite dwindled when you ask that question. I could tell you on LinkedIn, I have approximately 15,000 level 1 connections, and 95% of those people I connect with on a regular basis during a year. And I also continue to increase the people in my network every day. The other part of success is what I call ABP, to always be positive and be prepared. Okay. People do not want to be around negative or depressed people. You don't get hired if you're negative and depressed, and people just don't want to associate with you. Why drag down? Why be dragged down by being associated with a negative person? Okay. Look on the bright side. Okay. Always be positive and be prepared because opportunities come at any time. You don't know when they're going to happen. They could happen, you know, at the end of this meeting. They could happen during this meeting. You could get a call, but you don't know. So in doing this, what you have to also remember is that the 2 most important words that I believe you should have, not only when you are in transition, but also in life, are these 2 simple words. It depends. Because the actions that you take really depend upon the circumstances that exist. So think strategically. Look at things. Things are generally unique. Look at things, evaluate them, and then act. But the way you act may be different in different circumstances. So keep that in mind. These are the philosophies that I generally follow. Let's talk now about networking itself. You know, as I say, you know, we're all here to network. Well, what does that mean? What is really networking all about? And here's, if you want to give a definition, this is what it really is. It's an exchange of information and ideas among people, and it's generally in a social and informal social setting, resulting in the development of professional and social contacts. That's what networking is all about when you look at it. And what it does, Dan mentioned it in his letter when he announced this meeting, it generally begins with a single point of common ground. Dan lived in Midland Park, which is 3 miles from my house here in Franklin Lakes. Okay. And he says, I'm out here in San Diego, and I noticed that you live in Franklin Lakes. I used to live in Midland Park. and we had a lengthy conversation about things going on. And it's just what you want to do when you network with people is find a point and that you have something in common. Okay. When you do that, that makes the conversation a lot easier, and it creates a bonding between the two people. Okay. You have something in common, which is what people look for. Okay. And what networking is, it's really building relationships. That's what it is. Networking equals relationship building. No doubt about it. How do we build these relationships? Well, there's a number of ways to go about. And the reasons why we do it, number one, it feels good. Okay. It's human nature to be with people, to have people around us, to interact with people. You know, now that we've been through the COVID situation, you talk to a lot of people, you know, we're all on Zoom, which is great. We're still interacting. But what do we miss? We miss the physical presence of being together. The FENG, you know, this has been a struggle for us now this past year. We've had a lot of chapters who want to meet physically, but due to the virus, we still have not been able to do that as it stands right now. And we continue to evaluate it, myself, Bruce, and Matt, on a regular basis. And we thought we were going to start physical meetings again in January. Well, now we have the Omicron virus, you know, that part of the COVID virus, that variant. And so there's questions on what's going on. But we like to feel good. We like to be face to face with people. It helps to open doors when we have relationships to other people and other opportunities. And really, when we look at it, what we want to do when we build relationships, we are seeking what I call air, which is very simple for advice, information, and referrals. We also want to seek opportunities and business leads. Generally, it depends upon your relationship. Okay. And really, one of the key importance of relationships is a support system. You know, we have some of those times when we're just down. And that's when the relationships really become important, and people will help us, you know, get back to where we want to be positive, to be vibrant, to be active, etc. Okay. And what the relationship building does, it really sets the stage for future assistance. If you're in transition, it'll help open doors to people to help you find the next position. Okay. In business, it could be the next customer. It could also be your next vendor. Depends. Okay. And that's why we build these relationships. Then the question is, who do we build them with? Well, look, you know, the old adage, you can pick your friends, you can't pick your family. But family is really relationships, because you generally get together with them. Okay. You have your friends, your current friends and your past friends, current and past colleagues, college alumni. If you have sat back and said, well, you know, what happened to Joe? We're really close in college. I lost touch with him. What's Joe doing nowadays? We have our business customers and our vendors. We have those people who are in transition who we spoke with. There's recruiters, there's neighbors, members of our religious organizations, and our volunteer groups. And generally, the people we meet every day, okay, are the cleaners, the mailman, the pharmacist, the grocer, okay? These become relationships. I could tell you a quick story in that I work for one of my companies, and on Friday, I was called in the office and I was told that I was re-engineered. You might say, what the heck does that mean? Well, that means that my job was eliminated. This happened on Friday. And they wanted to tell me, well, we're going to give you 2 weeks notice. We'll give you a check for 2 weeks. Thank you very much, et cetera, et cetera. And then Saturday morning, I was scheduled to have my hair cut by Lori. And I had a relationship with Lori. I was going to her for the last 8 years. She was cutting my hair. And I walked in to see Lori that morning, Saturday morning. And she has the usual question, well, how you doing today? I said, well, today's not the best of days. And she said, why? What is it? I said, well, I was re-engineered yesterday. To which she looked at me and said, what does that mean? Now, here's an individual who cuts my hair for 8 years. And in the next half hour, as she snipped away on my hair without cutting my ears off, I was able to tell her that re-engineering means that my job was eliminated. She knew I was in finance, but didn't know that I was a CFO. And I explained to her what a CFO does in terms that she would understand. And at the end of the half hour, when I had this nice haircut and I felt somewhat refreshed, she said to me, Marty, I have a client who's coming later on this afternoon. Would you mind if I mention your situation to him because he might need you? I said, sure, no problem. She said, okay, I'll talk to him. Well, Monday morning, I got a call from her client who she cut her hair that afternoon. And he said to me, I had my hair cut the other day by Lori. Lori mentioned to me that you're now in between jobs. Tell me a bit about what you do. I told him, and he said, what does your schedule look like tomorrow? I'd like to talk to you. Well, right now it's pretty open. But we set up a meeting on Tuesday morning. I went to see him. He hired me on Friday. So you never know which relationship, how it's going to work. But this is why we have relationships. Okay. So what I suggest you do, if you have not already, make a list of all the people you know. And if you have not connected with those people in a while, do it now. Networking. Earlier this morning, I was scheduled to make a presentation to another networking group here in New Jersey. We had 156 people signed up. The topic was networking during the holidays. Okay. This is a great time to network. Okay. Especially if you haven't spoken with people in your network for a while and it's not difficult to reconnect. You could send them an email. You could send them a holiday card. You could do a couple things. You just say, I've been thinking about you. It's been a while. I really like to reconnect. Let's find out what we're doing. Let's get an update on each other. Let's chat. And most of the time you'll find out people are more eager to have a conversation with you. So make a list and look at it and see who you haven't spoken with. Give them a call. Okay. The types of networks we build, well, just remember that relationships, you could categorize them in networks. That's what they really are. And in doing it, there's generally these. You got your personal network. These are generally your friends and your family. You have the in transition network. When you've been in transition, like Derek is at the moment, Derek's in this category, so to speak. Okay. He will meet other people who are in transition. They will create a bond, because being in transition is one of the things that people have in common. And unless you've been in transition, you don't understand what it's all about, the stresses you have, what you have to do, etc. But Derek will develop that with the people that he meets along the way as he's been in transition. You have your business network. These are the people that you work with, your colleagues, your vendors, your customers.
Looks like you're muted there, Marty.
Marty, you just muted yourself.
Okay, is that better? We're back. Do you hear me now? Okay, now we're back. Now, how that happened, it's a little strange, but anyway. As I was saying, you had your business networks. And then what you have what I'll call combined networks, where these three networks here, they overlap each other. You could have people who are in your business network who are also your friends, and they're in your personal network. You have some of your friends who are currently in transition. Okay, they're in a transition network. You have people who are in transition who you used to work with. So they all interact. And when you look at them, you're really not segregating people in different networks, but be aware of that, somewhat you could say, okay, these people are the people who I could really count on, who I really know very well. In your personal network, what you generally have, I call it my inner circle. This is 5 to 7 people who I could call upon at any time. And we chat, we talk about different things going on. We'll talk about them in a little while. But just remember, these are the networks that you're looking at. Now, how do we build these networks? That's the key. Just remember, if you take the word networking and parse the word, there's these 4 letters in the middle. W-O-R-K. Work. You have to work at networking. It doesn't just happen. Not just when you're in transition, as I say, it's all the time. And it's what I call the Johnny Appleseed approach. It takes time to develop. It doesn't happen overnight, but you work at it, okay? And when you work at it, you get to talk to different people and it starts developing, okay? And that's why when you have it, okay, keep on working it, okay? ABC, because if you lose it, if they fall out of your network, you have to recreate it, okay? And you spend time doing it. Don't. Keep working on your network. In today's environment, well, if you're in transition, you're generally networking, 90% of the time, okay? If you're currently working, most people, unfortunately, fall in the trap where they bury their head in the sand and they stop networking. And Bill's over here shaking his head because he knows exactly what I'm talking about, okay? Don't fall into that trap. If you are working, spend at least 10% of your time networking, talking to people, giving them calls, saying hello. Don't bury your head in the sand because all jobs are temporary. Okay. Make sure you continue to network. Okay. But what you have to do in these networks to form them, you have to find something in common. Okay. That's what you want to look for. And you can say, well, how do I find that? Well, to find things in common, it's what I call gathering information intelligence. You know, you could look at LinkedIn, you could look at Google, you could speak to other people. All right. I ask people, you know, when you look at someone's LinkedIn profile, what do you look at? And I say, well, I look at their job history. That's what I look at. They worked here, they worked there. Okay. I said, what else do you look at? Well, that's generally what I look at. You know, the places you want to look at what they like, what their interests are. Okay. Look at what their volunteer work has been. Look at the other things outside of work, because those are the things that you will find in common. Okay. And will help you. Another quick story I had, I was in transition and a person told me that at that time I was in retail, and over here in New York City, there's one recruiter who really specializes in the retail business. And someone was able to connect me with the person in the organization, and they set up an interview for me to meet one of the recruiters. I went in to see Mark. I spoke to Mark for about an hour. He said, you really have a nice background. However, we don't have any positions here. Not right now, we don't have any openings. And I thanked him, and then I went about my way and I left for the day. And I was talking to someone, and someone says to me, have you ever spoken to the research analyst at recruiting firms? And I said, what do you mean the research analyst? Well, generally what they had, especially executive search firms, if you are going to meet with somebody and they're going to interview you, you might think that was a person who looked you up. That is not the case. What they do, search firms have research analysts. These are the people behind the scenes who look for people. And then when they find them, then they tell the people in the search firm, this is the person we should talk with. And that's when you get to see the salesperson, a recruiter, so to speak. Well, I said, gee, I'd never heard of these research analysts. And they said, yeah, you should do that. And I said, well, I was looking at this one company. Would you happen to know the research analyst? And at that time, there was actually a directory online of research analysts for companies. And I looked up for this recruiter who was the research analyst. And it was a woman in Connecticut. Okay. So I looked at that. I looked up her background. And I called her the next morning. And I called her up and I said, Sally, my name's Marty Latman. I came across your information from a friend of mine, and I would just, do you have a couple of minutes to just have a chat? And she said, Marty, I really would love to, but right now my dog is sick. I got to take my dog to the vet. Okay, if you want, give me a call tomorrow. Sorry. I said, okay, no problem. Okay. Well, I had to have, at that time, I had some dogs for my pets. The next morning, I called her up. Morning, Sally. It's Marty Latman. How's your dog? How did your dog make out in the vet? And then she started telling me what was going on with the vet, blah, blah, blah. And then she said, how could I help you? And I said, well, I'm looking for this retail job and blah, 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 blah. And she said, well, I have this situation. Let me see what I could do for you. About an hour later, Mark called me. Hey, Marty, we have a position we want to talk to you about. Come on in. And that's how it worked. Okay. So you want to look and find things in common with people. And that's what you want to look at when you build your network. And you want to earn, a person's trust, confidence and respect. That's what you want to do. Okay. Now, Dan told you up front, his version of, it's really important to know a lot of people. And I agree with him. Okay. It is extremely important to know a lot of people, but that's only half the equation. The real equation is, as I write here, although it is important to know a lot of people, it is much more important to know a lot of people who know you. And that comes from building relationships. Because when people know you and they are talking to other people, and they're talking about says, I'm looking for a finance person who has a background not only in finance, but operation and IT, who solves problems. I've been looking for this person recently to replace the people I have in my finance. You know anybody? Oh yeah, you should call Marty Latman. He has that background. He's a good guy. And it's through your relationships, when they know you, they hear from other people needs, and then they could say, in their mind, the first person to come up is you when they hear something, because they know you. You come up first in their minds. And that's why in networking, you want to know a lot of people, but more important, you want a lot of people to know who you are. And that comes through relationship building, because that's the key. Okay. And it's like opening a bank account. Okay. When you open up a bank account, before you can withdraw money, what do you have to do? You have to deposit money. Okay. And you deposit money, you're a giver. You help people out. And when you help people out first and you make that deposit, take for instance, Sally. Okay. I made the deposit by asking her about her dog. Okay. Then it was like, okay, now I could start making withdrawals. Okay. So help other people. Okay. When you do this networking, when you first start, it's not easy. You're going to stumble, but the more you do it, the easier it becomes. Okay. I have a presentation that I speak about working the room. And I teach people when they go to live events, how to make the most and benefit in working the room. And you'd be surprised. Most people, when they first come to a networking event, most people don't want to be there. Okay. They don't like to network, but for some reason they have to be there. So if you know that they don't want to be there, make them relax. Okay. Help them out. Okay. And when you're in transition, networking is not, hi, how are you? Can you give me some names and leads? That's not what you do. Okay. That's the last thing you do. It's not about you. It's about the other person. And then it'll all pay off. And we'll talk about that in a little while. Okay. Where can we develop these relationships? Well, there's many places. Here's some of them. I'm just going to go through them. You got your family functions. Okay. You got volunteer groups, networking groups, Google searches for people or groups, seminars. You go to a seminar when we used to have live, you still, some of these you still could do on virtual. You got an introduction. You have coffee time before meeting. You meet people, you talk to them. Charitable events, galas, family sports, on the sidelines, soccer, basketball, baseball, lacrosse, whatever you want to call. You're meeting people. You go to see the Chamber of Commerce. How many people have gone into the Chamber of Commerce to find out which companies are coming into the area, which companies are leaving the area, Okay, which companies could use your help? You have your alumni. Schools are always happy to connect you with alumni. Okay, when you connect to an alumni, there's a common bond right away, your school. All right. Industry and professional associations, social networking sites, LinkedIn, Facebook, meetups. Meetups are really, really good because generally you join a meetup for something in common. You could have meetups on, I like photography. So I could become in a meetup with people who do photography. You have cooking, you have meetup for book reading, things that you like to do, and you'll find people there. The same thing when you go into LinkedIn today. Okay, one thing in LinkedIn, you have special interest groups. Okay, now a lot of people do not go into these special interest groups. You could go into 100 special interest groups. And when you join a special interest group, you have access to all the members within that special interest group. And you're there for something in common. And then you could increase your network there. Okay. The other thing, you should be commenting on social media posts by other people. Now, you could do it on Facebook, you could do it on LinkedIn, and you could always hit like. I like when the people hit the like button. It's real simple. You hit the like button, your picture comes up, a little circle above the person's comment. That's about it. And after about 6 other people like it, your picture then becomes one of the ... after the other 6 people. So you disappear. However, if on LinkedIn, for instance, instead of just clicking like, you make a comment. This was a very interesting article. What happens is your picture and your name stays with that post, and it doesn't become a ... So people get to see your comment, they get to see your name. The people who post the initial thread generally see your name, okay? And that opens up doors to start building relationships with those people on the threads. So I would comment as opposed to like, okay? And you could also follow people or companies today.
Hey, Marty, how much time per day do you spend commenting and liking?
I generally spend on LinkedIn about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. Okay. I will have to tell you, Bill, that one of the things that I am very good at is time management. I'm really, really good in how I do things. I'm also an early person. I'm generally up by about 5 o'clock in the morning, even when I'm not working. And what I do is that after I have my breakfast, the first thing I do, I start looking at my emails and my LinkedIn's. I also, what happens is that I like to correspond with people when it's their birthday or when they're promoted. Okay. We'll talk about that in a little while, but I do that. And this way I stay connected with people. Okay.
Yep.
How should you approach people? Well, as I said before, it's always about them. Remember, Sally was a dog. Okay. It's always about them. You want to make people winners. If you're going to ask somebody to do something, you want to ask them something that they could do. If you're in transition, don't ask something like, well, I'm right now in between jobs. Help me find a job. They're not going to be able to help you. They're going to be losers. You want to be able to make them winners. And you could do that by saying, I'm in transition. And I see that you're connected with John Smith. Okay. And I know John is very good in the industry that I'm looking for. Is it possible for you to introduce me to John Smith? Well, you've just made your connection a winner because they could connect you to John Smith. Okay, it's a win-win. Your connection is a winner by connecting you to John Smith, and you are a winner because now you are connected with John Smith. Okay, so you want to ask people to do things that they are capable of doing. Okay, ask them how, ask people how you can help them. They come first, not about you, it's about them. Always be positive. Negative people, they don't get anything. Okay, you want to smile and relax as you go through this, and be considerate of people's times. Okay, especially if they're working. Generally during the day they might be very busy and they might not be able to take your call. So if you can, try to contact them in off hours, early in the morning or late at night. Okay. The saying that I've always said is that when you are in transition, if you are in transition, time moves very slowly. But if you're working, time moves extremely fast because you always have these deadlines to hit. You always have crises that you have to solve. So there's a difference here when people are working and people are in transition, and you have to be cognizant of that. They might not be getting back to you on your time schedule because they might have other things happening. So be considerate to that. Avoid what I consider the cancer syndrome. What I'm saying by that is, look, I'm looking for a job. I need you to help me. Okay. When you started saying that, all of a sudden, the people who you were trying to have help you started backing away. Because if you're in transition, they started helping you on things as broad as that. They have this tendency to think, well, I might get in transition too. So stay away from that. Okay. Spread the word about yourself. Let other people know that you're in the market. Okay. And you're looking for some assistance. Okay. Don't keep it a secret. We had in one of my groups, I had a guy, he was out of work, didn't tell his wife. For the next year, he'd get up every day, he'd get dressed in his suit, and he'd leave the house. And then finally, after a year, he came home one day and he told his wife, hey, I just want to let you know I have a new job. I finally landed. And she said to him, what do you mean you landed? He says, well, I don't want to tell you, but I've been out of work for the last year. And she said, what? Well, needless to say, there was a question about trust now. That couple got divorced. Just want to let you know. So, spread the word. Okay. And what you want to do when you meet people, you want to have an elevator pitch. That's the way we translate to people or communicate. But your elevator pitch has to be tailored to the situation, to the person you're speaking with. Okay. Not all encompassing. Okay. Generally, what I tell people, they need at least 6 elevator pitches. At least 6. And we could go over that soon. Okay. Tell people how they could help you. But in doing that, you want to have it clear. You want to be concise. And when you tell them, you want to make it compelling and consistent. And we'll talk about that. And what you want to do, you want to guide people on how they could help you. you know, I'm looking to work at this company. I see you are connected with Joe Smith. Okay. How well do you know Joe Smith? Could you connect me to him? Because I'd like to talk to him about the opening that he has. That's why I would like to contact him. Okay. And it's a good old telephone game, everybody. Okay. If you don't have a clear message and you tell one person, who then's going to tell another person, who's going to tell another person and another person. And before you know it, the message that you originally said is not the message that people are hearing, because it's been filtered along the way. And that's why you want to have a clear and concise pitch. And we'll talk about that.
Hey,
Okay.
Marty, I wanted
Yeah.
to add something to a comment you made a couple minutes ago
Yeah.
about being considerate of other people's time and being considerate of where they are. And it's not just being considerate of them, but being aware of what they may have going on for another reason, which is when you're actively networking, and in particular, if you're in job transition, there can be a tendency to think if somebody doesn't call you back, oh, you might think it's the cancer syndrome. They don't want to talk to me or something like that. And never forget that other people have other things going on in their lives. They may not call you back right away simply because they have other things going on, and they may
Exactly.
fully intend to get back to you, and in fact will get back to you. So what that may mean is that don't feel bad about doing a follow-up, after the appropriate amount of time has elapsed, if it's a day or whatever it might be. Don't feel bad about doing a follow-up. And what you may hear is, oh, thanks for calling me back. I meant to call you and it fell off my radar because I've got other things going on. So
No,
never
it's a very
assume,
good point, Dan. And,
yeah, don't
and
assume
it's
the
very
worst.
important. It's very important to keep that in mind as you go through this. Now, when we're in transition, um, our biggest enemy is the voice between our ears. That's our worst enemy, because we're generally negative, okay, internally. And we always think about the worst. And as you point out, it might not be at all. It just might be that they have other things happening. And so, um, don't prejudge, okay? See what happens and play it out, okay? Be patient, but at the same time, you want to have a certain time frame in your mind on what you want to do to try to push it along. And as you say, people get inundated so much with mail today, emails and calls, that they might, number one, they might have missed it, or they might not have the time right now. They're going to get back to you. So a follow-up is always important. Let's talk further. Okay, the elevator pitch. We use pitch to introduce ourselves to others in many situations. It's not only when you're in job search. Okay, not only your pitch. Generally, it should have what I consider the 3 W's and the 4 C's. Okay, and my thing, I think you should always keep it under 90 seconds, because people have they're very impatient today. They want to hear things quickly. And when you extend past 90 seconds, okay, your pitch could really be filtered quite a bit. What you want to do in your pitch, the 3 W's, is that who you are, what you do. And when I say what you do, that is not your title. That is not your title, because titles could be the same in different companies. It's your role. And why people should hear you. Why should they listen to you? What is your value to the listener? That's what you want to have. And the 4 C's, you want to make it clear on what you do. You want to make it concise, under 90 seconds. You want to make it compelling, meaning interesting, and you want to make it consistent. Now, when I say consistent, it does not have to be the same words every time, but it should be the same theme. I'm a problem solver. Okay. I increase companies' efficiencies. You could use different words, but make it consistent with your message. Now, when I said 6 elevator pitches, I group elevator pitches into 2 groups, 3 in each. So each group has 3 pitches. One is a 15-second pitch. One is a 30-second pitch, and the other one's 60 to 90 seconds. Okay. So you got 3 time frames in each category. The 2 categories are these. One is for your industry or your profession. As finance people, we talk a different language. We'll talk about 10Ks, 10Qs, S1s, S8s, Fox, SOX, IFRS. We say all these great terms. We know what they are, so we could understand it. Take the same terms and speak those terms to somebody who's not an accountant, not in finance, deer in the headlights. They'll have no idea what you want to talk about. So what you want to do, your second group is for people not in your industry or your profession. I'll call it the general people. And in that, you want to say, well, what I do is that I help, interpret the results of the company and show the company what their profitability is and where they can improve their efficiencies. And that's what I do. Okay. So you want to bring it down into language that they understand. And if you're in job search and you're using your elevator pitch, share these job specs with the people you're contacting to show them why you are a good fit. Okay. Show them this is what they're looking for, and this is what I have done. So that will help your contact connect you with someone who you are asking to be connected to. Okay. How do you maintain your relationships? Just remember, out of sight is out of mind. Okay. ABC, you want to follow up with a person on a continual basis, not only when you're in transition. Now, how do you do that? Well, you can make a phone call, send the birthday card, send the holiday card. You could do this, regular cards, e-cards. You could do that today. It's very easy. Send congratulatory notes. You could do it handwritten. You could do it, emails, or you could do it, like LinkedIn or stuff where they really have it. Messages, short and sweet. Send an article of interest. I have one friend of mine, what he does every week, he posts to people in his network, I thought you might be interested in this article. He came across an article and he just shows people it. Keeps you top of mind. Okay. And you can meet with people live or virtual today for coffee meetings, wine tasting today. Okay. Meetings like what you're doing right now. Okay. I will tell you, in today's environment, since we've gone with COVID, I do not generally make phone calls any longer. I don't do it. I generally have a video call. I like to see the people who I'm talking with. I get to see their body language. I get to hear more what they're doing. Okay, they get to see me. There's different platforms. Zoom right now is probably the most prevalent. But look, in 2019, how many of you thought of the word Zoom where it meant, meeting people? Just think about it, okay? How far we've come. There's different platforms. You have, Teams, you have GoToMeeting, you have Skype, you have WhatsApp, you have all these things. Generally, the apps are the same, except the buttons are in different areas, okay? So be familiar with the different applications, but, You don't have to be an expert at each. What I suggest, don't do phone calls any longer. Do video conferences. You get to see the people. It's really interesting. Okay. How could these relationships help us? Well, they could introduce us to what I call people of influence, POIs. These are the movers and shakers. These are the people who will get action done. Okay. Our relationships provide us with advice and information. They give us, information on job strategies, provide us support when we're down. Okay. Provide recommendations of us to other people. Spread the word about us. They provide us with opportunity leads. I have, as I say, I have an inner circle. We talk on a regular basis. And, we do this. We talk about, how we could share different leads, how we, this is the person you should contact. This person's business could use so-and-so's help, etc. Okay. But what you also could do, you could provide honest and constructive criticism. Why did you do that? Just think, did you think what the ramifications would be? Okay. Next time, think about something else. Let's look at the situation. All right. And they also help you think out of the box. Okay. We have a tendency when we're in certain things to focus. That's great to some extent, but then you might miss something else where you might say, okay, look, I've been thinking about sending this resume to this individual. Okay. What do you think about it? Well, you could send that, but maybe what you think about, maybe you should give that person a video call and talk to the person first. Think like that. Okay. So this is what your relationships could do for you. And they help you focus. All right. What they provide, what you can do is that, arrange physical introductions to people. That's what they could do. They could set you up to meet people. They can make phone calls on your behalf to people. Okay. They could request that people meet with you. Dan, I have this guy, Derek. I know Derek. Derek's in transition. Okay. He's thinking about consulting. Maybe you could give him some hints on what he might want to do in consulting. Would you be open to meeting with him? Because I can make the connection for you. Okay. Ask the relationships to help you. Okay. Make LinkedIn introductions for us. Okay. Send letters or emails to people on our behalf. Okay. These introductions to people of influence. Okay. They can make these introductions for you, to hiring managers, to industry experts, to company executives, okay, to networking masters, as I call it. You could be introduced to these people through your relationships, okay? Call it that they are the switchboard of your life, okay? They can make the connections for you to other people who then can make connections to other people for you, okay? And that's what networking is all about. What it is, networking is relationship building. We build relationships through networks. Okay. They provide air for us, also emotional, support, advice, information, or referrals. Okay. When you meet people, you use an elevator pitch, but it could be used in many ways. It's not just when you're in transition. Just remember your ABCs. To always be connected with people in your network and reach out to connect to new people. Okay. Always be positive and be prepared. ABP. Jobs are temporary, everybody, but relationships are permanent. And building relationships is a journey that takes time. Johnny Appleseed, you have to work at networking. It doesn't happen automatically. And just remember, networking is a lifetime process. It's not one and done. It is continual. And what you want to do as you go on this journey, you want to learn as you network, you want to experiment when you network, and most important, you want to enjoy it, because it's great to meet new people and, you know, connect them to other people who you know. Okay. If you need me, this is my connection. I welcome LinkedIn connections. I'm more than happy to talk with people. Very simple. Reach me on my cell phone, which is right here, 201-919-2607. This is my main email. You could also reach me through the FENG emails. And here, if you want to link with me, it's very simple. Okay. Here I am, linkedin.in.Marty Latman. You'll find me.